When a woman ran into a cafe in London with blood all over her hands, she begged people to save her from a murderer. Her body was later discovered buried in a garden in Birmingham. Banaz Mahmoud was a stunning and intelligent 20-year-old Iraqi Kurdish woman. She was living in Mitcham, South London in 2006. She had moved to the UK with her family when she was just 10 years old. Her sisters had had arranged marriages, and her sisters had gone through genital mutilation. Bekkal, her older sister, actually ran away from home in 2002. She stated that she was a victim of both physical and mental abuse from her family. This was largely due to her having Western friends that her family didn't approve of. They also didn't like how she'd started experimenting with clothing and hairstyles that were outside of their traditional culture. She expressed fear after her dad had tried to kill her and threatened to kill her, her sisters, and her mum if she didn't return home. Needless to say, she didn't go back, but she spent some time in foster care and later went into hiding. Her dad was ostracised from the community because of this, due to the perceived lack of control he had over his daughter. Now back to Banaz, the younger sister. When she was around 16, she was made to marry a man who was 10 years older than her. During their marriage, she reported to police multiple times that he'd beaten her and also arred her. Her family, though, told her she wasn't allowed to leave the abusive marriage due to the shame that it would bring on them. She did, though, find the courage to leave in July 2005. She then met a man who she really liked, named Ramat Suleimani. Her dad and uncle, though, were furious about her new relationship. On the 2nd of December 2005, they held a family meeting in which they decided they would murder her. Now, Banaz actually reported this to police as she'd heard rumours that they were planning to do this, and she also had been threatened by her uncle that he would kill both her and her boyfriend. She even took a letter to the police station documenting all of this and giving exact names and details of these people. Police were yet again made aware of the threats to Banaz as they got called to a cafe in Wimbledon where she had arrived really distressed. She had turned up pleading for help with blood all over her hands. She had apparently had to smash through and break a window of her house in order to escape them. A policewoman, Angela Corns, infuriatingly interviewed Banaz and called her manipulative and dramatic. She then tried to charge her with criminal damage due to the broken window. Now, this incident in the cafe took place on New Year, and on the 22nd of January, 3 men tried to kidnap Banaz's boyfriend. Again, this was reported to police, but very little was done. Just 2 days later, she was asleep at home in the lounge. Muhammad Marid Hama, Mohammed Salah Ali, and Omar Hussein arrived at the house. The 3 men arred and tortured her for over 2 hours. They then strangled her to death. They put her body in a suitcase, transported her to Handsworth in Birmingham, and buried her in a back garden. The following day, Banaz's boyfriend reported her missing, and again, the police did very little about this initially. He literally hounded the police so that they had to do something. Eventually, the family were interviewed, and it was noted that their stories didn't match up. Finally, in February, Mohammed Hama was charged with murder. Ramat was able to identify him as the one that had tried to kidnap him. He was then secretly recorded bragging about the murder, and in the secret recordings, he actually implicated the other men. Police tracked vehicles and found Banaz's body on the 28th of April 2006. Both Mohammed Saleh Ali and Omar Hussein fled to Iraq after the murder. In 2007, Mohammed was arrested for a hit-and-run killing of a teenage boy. He was then extradited from Iraq back to England in 2009. Following trials, Banaz's dad, uncle and 3 cousins were convicted of her murder. They were each given between 17 and 23 years in prison.
This is a real photo of a man named Eben Byers, and the story behind it will leave your jaw on the floor. Eden Byers was born into a very wealthy family in New York City, and after he graduated from Yale University, he focused all his time on his passion for golf. In fact, he was so passionate and devoted to golf that he became a world-class golfer and won the 1906 U.S. Amateur Tournament, which is the biggest amateur tournament in the world. Eben probably would have become a pro golfer, but his dad gave him the family's successful metalworking business, so he stopped pursuing his golf career and became the chairman of his dad's dad's business instead. He became even more rich than he already was. He began buying luxury properties across the country, and he became friends with very wealthy people. He was basically living the life up until 1927 when he was on his way home from a football game at Yale University. On his 12-hour ride back to Pittsburgh, he was of course in first class, where there were bunk beds for the passengers to sleep on. Eben climbed onto the top bunk, and a few hours into his ride, he rolled off the bed and landed on his shoulder, where he felt a very sharp pain. After getting off the train, he went to his physical therapist to get examined, and while nothing was out of place, he was still in a lot of pain, so his PT told him about a new expensive drug called Radithor. Radithor was used to lessen pain and boost energy with supposed little side effects, so Eden was all for it. He was given a prescription, grabbed it from the drugstore, and began taking it right away. As prescribed, he took a small spoonful and immediately got a boost in energy, and his pain started going away. He continued this for the next few days and said he felt better and even more alive. Naturally, he began taking more of it until it got to the point where he was taking 3 full bottles a day that lasted years. It was all going fine until one day in 1931, after he had consumed over 1,400 bottles of this stuff, his jaw became disconnected from his skull and became limp. Turns out, Radithor was just radioactive water using the highly radioactive element radium, which was, of course, believed to have healing properties. Eben's body was literally falling apart and disintegrating. He had his entire lower jaw and large portions of his upper jaw surgically removed, and his body just began to crumble. By 1932, being completely bedridden with holes in his skull and his body falling apart, Eben passed away. He was buried in a lead-lined coffin to absorb any radiation from his body, and around 30 years later, in 1965, he was exhumed, where they found that his body was emitting the same amount of radiation as it was when he was buried. Radium has a half-life of around 1,600 years, meaning Eben's body will be highly radioactive for centuries. I always thought this picture was fake, and to go back to my intro, ironically, my jaw was on the floor when I found out that this story was indeed not fake.
Skinwalkers caught on camera.
I'm home alone and I can hear myself saying my own name.
Help me, Kaylee.
What the
Kaylee.
Kaylee!
Hello? Hello?
Kaylee.
Mom? What the hell is going on? Hello?
Kaylee. Kaylee.
Hello?
Kaylee. Kaylee, help me. Kaylee.
Who's through that? Oh my god.
There's a city in Italy that had skyscrapers around 800 years ago, and some of them are still standing today. The city of Bologna, Italy is often referred to as the Manhattan of the Middle Ages due to its over 200 towers, with some being over 300 feet tall, resembling modern-day skyscrapers. The construction of these towers was a very complex and labor-intensive process. I mean, building a tower with the height of 60 meters could take anywhere between 3 and 10 years to complete. The towers were primarily built by noble families as a symbol of their wealth and status. Due to the ongoing power struggles between the papacy and the Holy Roman Empire, these families needed defensive structures. However, without the space to build castles, they built upwards, resulting in the construction of these impressive towers. The tallest of these towers is actually the one that still stands today, called the Esanelli Tower, which stands around 320 feet tall and has 498 steps to the top. That's quite impressive for 800 years ago. If you ever decide to go there, you can climb it yourself for a panoramic view of the city. Over time, many of these towers were demolished or collapsed due to various reasons, including earthquakes, changes in fashion among the aristocracy, and the city authorities' decision to remove symbols of a violent society. Today, fewer than 20 of them remain. I could only imagine what it was like back then to come across the city not knowing it was a thing. I bet it was intimidating, but also breathtaking.
ever since that guy posted that video, it's been popping off for him. When I say that, I mean like, I don't know if you can call it haunting. I don't know what.
Yeah.
Literally a video of him being possessed.
Wait, what?
Like he's talking as someone first.
Whoa.
Yeah. No.
I didn't know it was that crazy.
It's
What the
crazy.
hell?
It's crazy. So I'll start off slow.
Yeah.
One of the videos is his house started becoming haunted. His
Okay.
lights started flickering. He would hear noises. He would hear voices.
Yeah.
Look at this.
Well, here we go. Friday night show. My lights are all going to crap in the garage again. Okay. I come here to talk to you guys, and evidently it's just. I'm gonna go back in the house. I'm gonna go live when I get in the house.
There's other videos. He's in his kitchen, shit's popping off.
Yeah.
He's in his bedroom, and the lights flickering. I don't think this guy's fucking acting though. Like, Lord.
Oh, he can't be acting.
He has scratches on his body that he can't explain.
Okay, yeah,
Like
that's
when he
real
goes
then.
to bed, he sees these scratches come up on him.
Back, I can't even tell it because I can't see it. I was down back there working, and it just hurts. It just burns, and I feel odd. I feel.
Copycats. Confused cat owners in Lowell, Massachusetts are reporting the sudden duplication of all household felines. Seemingly overnight, every cat in the Lowell area has gained an identical counterpart. Ministry researchers have located several colonies of mimicry pods in Lowell's residential regions, indicating a targeted effort to gain access to local homes. Reasons for this focused attack are currently unknown. If one spots a copycat in its tree-formed larval stage, contact animal control authorities immediately. Copycats in the midst of mimicry transformation have been reported to exhibit extremely violent behavior. Currently, there is no discernible means of distinguishing a copycat from the original cat. Residents are being urged to exercise caution around both versions of their pet, as evidence suggests copycats may revert to their larval form if provoked by unwanted contact to their underside. This has been a public service announcement from the Ministry of Latent Places.
3 abandoned cities in the USA you should never travel to. Number 3, Pitcher, Oklahoma. Once a thriving mining town, is now a toxic wasteland. The city was abandoned due to severe lead contamination, which affected nearly 34% of the children, causing serious health issues. In 2009, the EPA declared it a Superfund site, and the federal government bought out the residents. Number 2, Kennecott, Alaska. Kennecott, nestled in the rugged Alaskan wilderness, was once a booming copper mining town. Abandoned in 1938 after the copper deposits were depleted, it now stands as a preserved relic of the past. The extreme remoteness and harsh weather conditions make it perilous to access. Avalanches and unstable structures pose significant risks to explorers. Before revealing the number 1, remember to subscribe and like the video. Number 1, Bodie, California. A former gold rush town, is now a well-preserved ghost town in the Sierra Nevada mountains. By the early 1900s, the gold had dried up and people moved away, leaving behind an eerie, empty shell of a city. The area experiences extreme weather, with temperatures dropping to minus 20 degrees Fahrenheit in winter. Fires have ravaged many buildings, and the remaining structures are fragile and dangerous.